The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Oh, yeah. All right. My beautiful idols. I tell you, if the good Lord never goes on holiday, tell me why he made the Bahamas. If the good Lord never used to come this way, tell me why he made these islands. All the sun, all the peace, all the skies, all the breeze, all the grease, all the hills, all the sand, all the trees. Oh, tell me why. Tell me why.
Good morning this morning and welcome back to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, your station for fresh news, smart talk all day. It's Thursday, the 29th of May, 2025, and you are on the clock with Erin. I'm so glad the producer played that song for me this morning. I trying to figure out how to say it. The song says, if the good Lord never went on holiday, then why did he make the Bahamas? Well, if that's the case, I sure the good Lord didn't put tax on holiday when he made it. Anyway, today we are starting the show interrogating the budget communication. I have joining me in studio business reporter, the Nassau Guardian, Erin Kemp, to help us understand kind of how to read or how to listen to a budget communication. Now, I've asked Mr. Kemp here, for his technical advice. I may talk a little politics, but I did not invite Mr. Kemp here to do that. I just letting you all know, don't have that expectation. I can crack the jokes. But I think yesterday was a big exercise. The Prime Minister spoke for a considerable length of time, and I realized it could be difficult to parse, to understand all of what he said, right? Just listening via TV or radio. And so I want to start this discussion by encouraging parents and guardians to maybe see this as a potential exercise, like a family thing, right? If you've got junior high students, you got high school students, I would say, hey, why not give them a project, incentivize them with a little cash prize or something, and to break it down, to go through it, right? You can go to the Office of the Prime Minister's page, I think, for a copy of the budget. I'm not sure if the website, bahamasbudget.gov.bs, has uploaded the budget communication yet. But you can go to the Office of Prime Minister's page, go to the press room, look for the budget communication for the 2025-2026 budget, and get your kids to go through it, formatted, right? Highlighting what they think are the priority areas, where their focus is, what things are missing. And I want to kind of do that over the next few days, maybe over the next week or so, breaking it down. But I realized while I was listening, and then last night when I spent several hours going through it, it's not that it's difficult to understand, but like most things, you need a system to approach it, right? You need to figure out how you're going to approach it, how you're going to read it. And as a small group, I think people could get through this easily. Individuals could do it too. But I think it would be a great family exercise. It would be a great exercise to get young people familiar with the process, and then familiar with the issues that arise, right, in the interrogation of the budget communication. And so I've asked Mr. Erin Kemp to come in and kind of join us today for a small discussion on understanding the budget communication.
Good morning, Erin. Before you do that, right? Yesterday I was inbox several times. What do I think of the budget? And I asked, what do you mean what do I think of the budget? The budget is the budget,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the people ask whether it was a good budget or a bad budget. And I would say, I'm not sure a budget could be good or bad. It's basically you prescribing, allocating, is a better word, where the money is going to be spent, what our priorities, right? And so I wanted, when you asked Yuri Kemp, what should Bohemians be looking for
In the budget.
in the budget, and whether there's such a thing as a good budget or a bad budget,
Yeah.
right? I wanted you to make sure you ask him that.
Yeah, and I'm going to take it right from that point, because when you said the people asked, "What do you think? Is it a good budget or a bad budget?" I was going to say off the bat, it's not a budget at all. It's a budget communication, and I think there's a difference between the budget and the budget communication. I think that's the first point, right? There's a difference between the budget communication, and the budget debate. Three separate elements of the process.
But historically, when we have the budget debate, we see a lot of pontificating, right? And then people forget that, when I say people, the members of parliament or the ministers forget that it's an account of expenditure. And then they use it to use political jockey and jeers and laughter.
Yeah.
And because even when the prime minister was speaking, there were jeers going back and forth.
Yeah.
And I said, man, this is a serious time, man. I'm
Right.
trying to listen.
Like, it's a technical exercise.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a political exercise.
Yes.
Which is why yesterday I framed the question, what's more important, the speech from the throne, or what has more weight?
Yes.
The speech from the throne or the budget communication?
Yes.
Right? And so from the prime minister's initial communication to the subsequent, would we expect communications from cabinet ministers and members of parliament? The question arises again, right? Is this a political exercise or is it a technical governmental exercise? And I wondered during the prime minister's communication, and then I realized maybe it's me. Maybe I don't understand what a budget communication is supposed to look like, right? And then upon further interrogation...
Or the intention of the budget communication.
Right, because the first third to half of...
The beginning
Right, the communication
was fluff.
seemed to be fluff. And then I was advised
Be patient.
that typically, have faith is what I was advised, but that typically the communication starts with the wrap-up of the previous budget.
Okay.
So that I should have expected...
The fluff.
Right, now, I should have expected it. What I wanted was a more technical relating of the past year, right? I would like this exercise to be more technical,
Yes.
versus political and rhetorical.
Yes.
And that's why I think it's important to make the distinction between the budget communication and the budget itself. The budget is a document, it has no feelings.
Prime Minister, and this we're going to get ready to bring in the conversation.
Yes, thank you.
But the Prime Minister highlighted things to expect in the budget debate.
Yes.
Right? That got the Bohemian people excited, got media excited. You see some headlines there, right? It took a while to get to that, right? Which we understand. That's part of it, apparently. But again, I'm still concerned whether it's a technical exercise and where I'm supposed to be appreciating the numbers, appreciating the direction, or is it for political brownie points and where I'm supposed to spin, say my party is the best. And I said, but is it the party document or budget, or is it the government's budget?
Right. And so we can get into those sorts of questions in sort of the second half of the discussion. But I want to ask Mr. Kemp, from the perspective of a business reporter, understanding the budget, and then also what you think the average citizen should focus on, should look for. Good morning, Mr. Kemp. How you doing?
Morning, Erin. Morning, CA Nuri. How you doing, man?
I can tell you. So why you didn't tell me that the first half of the budget communication was going to be a look into the past? The Prime Minister mentioned the pandemic directly twice, Dorian once, but like directly the word Dorian once, but referenced it about 3 times, 4 times, right? Why y'all didn't tell me that I'm supposed to expect that? And then the next question is on the Bahamas budget.gov.bs website. I see that they actually do have a 2023-2024 budget wrap-up, making a distinction between the Prime Minister's introduction to the new budget and that wrap-up. When do you think we could expect the wrap-up, the assessment for the fiscal year 2024-2025 to be posted?
You could expect that wrap up after it's already been to the Senate and come back to the Parliament. Then he's going to give us wrap. That's probably going to be in another 2 or 3 weeks, I think.
Okay.
So it
All
shouldn't
right.
be that long from now.
Okay, and I'll acknowledge that in government time, 2 or 3 weeks isn't very, very long.
No.
Okay.
It's a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're going to expect him to, go over what he's done and then, tell him what the Senate has actually passed and how he's going to move forward with his new budget year.
Okay, so he's going to let us know the things that the Senate has passed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then give you an overall overview of what he actually spoke about the first time. And going back to your first question, you have to lay the groundwork. You have to lay the history of how we've gotten here and how you expect us to move forward. I think that's critical with any budget communication. You have to say, exactly what happened the year before. Then you have to paint the picture of why we have to do certain things for this new budget year. So that's why we have to go through this history, overlay.
I want to make the point that the reference to Dorian, the reference to the other thing was Dorian,
Pandemic.
A pandemic was done for the first budget and the 2nd budget. The third, I think it's the 4th one now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each one of those mentioned the same thing again. But so as I was listening, right, for that first half an hour to hour, I said, he said this last year though. Is there a need to go back so far?
See, I think the catastrophic trauma that came as a result of Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic is left lasting impacts on the Bahamas. And so, we're still paying out some of those damages right now. I mean, there's still works going on inside Abaco.
All right, so
Dorian.
if money is flowing to Dorian projects, right, even though it was 4 years ago, it's not unreasonable for the Prime Minister to reference that.
Yeah, at least reference it to a small degree. Not, it shouldn't be like the overall thing
Thrust, yeah.
Thrust of the budget. It should be at least mentioned that we're still working on certain things to get us back from the COVID-19 pandemic and to get us back from where, Dorian had Abaco and Grand Bahama in 2019. So, yeah, you have to lay that history first.
All right, because I'll be honest with you all, I was all in my feelings when I was reading through the communication last night. Why you say this? Why you say that like that? And a bunch of things. But then, so now, I get it. That one I could understand.
I
right?
think particular for years to come, and then
Yeah.
Dorian too. I think it was so traumatic what happened in Abaco and Grand Bahama. It felt as if the hand of God was on top of the Bahamas when Dorian hit.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be talking about that for years.
So next year, expect the same intro.
At least some reference to it. Okay.
Right. My thing is that, so you mentioned Dorian. I would have wanted to hear a fiscal update on the status of the shelter. But that's me, and that's
Yeah.
politics. We put
Yeah.
that aside.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the highlights of the budget? For instance, in my research, I found on the Bahamas budget.gov.bs website this segment, budget priorities. How do I identify what is a budget priority as an average reader? And I look into this budget. I mean, is it as simple as the Prime Minister can tell you? He can say, we plan on focusing on this.
See, well, if you look at our story inside the Guardian business section this morning, I
let's pull
spoke
it.
to Lance Pinder from Abaco Big Bird Poultry. I think the Prime Minister mentioned he's going to double increase spending towards farms and farming.
Yeah.
But Pinder is saying, well, you could say all of that, but it has to actually be targeted towards getting funding for farms and how you could help farms get access to more capital.
Right.
I think when we go into the weeds and the details, I think the Prime Minister mentioned a few things with regard to farming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I can for a second. Here's a quote. The Golden Yoke Project has a large role to play in our plans for food security. We are investing $9 million in the construction of pullet buildings capable of housing 25,000 chicks, dual-layer houses, increasing support by 200%, and expanding the overall agriculture budget from 25 million to 35 million.
Yeah. I think that's important as well. So we have to talk about actually how he's going to actually increase,
That.
the capacity for farms.
Stick a pin. So like I say, I reading it and I saying, oh, this is just fluff. But when I'm reading it, what I'm supposed to do is when I find a sector or a segment that I'm interested in, highlight it. And then when I get access to the budget, then I could sit down and say, okay, they're increasing support to farmers by 200%. In which areas?
Exactly.
And then again, where will they find the finances.
Yeah.
Which organizations will they partner with potentially? I can find all of those in the details of the budget.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. So the budget itself, I broke down this 49, the initial document I saw was 49 pages. It's a lot. But it's big print, so don't be afraid, right? Like it's reader friendly, it's accessible, and that's why there's so many pages. You could format it however you want. So I broke it down into 23 double-sided pages, 46 basically in total. There are highlights, right? I thought they were dead links. I thought they were links that weren't properly constructed in the document, but I think they are captions and titles to tell you where you are, what we're speaking about in this portion of the document. And I thought that was very helpful.
Thank God for technology, you know.
Yeah.
You could go back and you could do all your research online. You could click a link and you could go to a different page and you could see what's going on with other things. So that's good.
All right. So what are the things that the business sector are looking for? What are the things that to see what the next year is going to look like for them as well?
Absolutely, man. They have to watch the budget because that's when they're going to get their money to do their projects.
Right.
They are, before the Prime Minister actually comes to Parliament, he goes a month or two before to every government agency and he asks them, what are you doing for this year coming up? And then he asks them to put that into a format, send it through the Ministry of Finance for them to process that, and then he comes to Parliament. So it's not just him coming up in the Parliament and saying, oh, no, we're going to do this and that. No, he actually goes through a process.
And refers to all of the ministries.
Yes.
How quickly does the money drawn down to the various ministries?
It all depends on when they spend, because you have some ministries that don't spend all the money and they send it back for some strange reason. I don't know.
Well,
why.
because they have to. I tried that with my mother. Apparently, you have to send it back.
Yeah, you have to send it back to the Treasury, yeah. So it all
Yeah.
depends on when they get the money. They should get their money on July 1st. And some of them may have already started to get their money right now, actually.
Right. And I imagine the disbursements or trenches are scheduled in many instances.
Exactly. But it has to be approved. The budget has to be approved first.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Parliament.
Okay, Carla, sorry about that.
As you write your business report inside The Guardian, right, and she mentioned Abaco Big Bird, has a number of private entities start reaching out, giving commentary about the budget as yet?
Well,
or do they expect them to even do such?
Yeah, I expect to get feedback from at least the Bahamas Institute of Chartered Accountants. And
BICA.
And the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation. I expect to get a response from them.
And then Mark Turnquist in the Small Business
section.
Development Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should give some feedback as well.
I'm expecting Organization for Responsible
Absolutely.
Government to give feedback. But I think all NGOs, right, should prepare a statement about the budget. Because first things first, if the government doesn't know you need, how can they make provisions for your need?
Exactly.
The next question is, can the budget be critical? There are people who say that, the opposition just being critical. They complain for complaining's sake. Can private organizations say, well, we like this, we didn't like this, or we expect this, or can the government reconsider this?
Right. Is there
after the
time
budget?
for amendments to be made after consultation shared by key stakeholders?
I've never heard of a budget being amended before it actually gets to the midterm budget. So I'm not sure if that's... there's a time to do that when the midterm budget comes along.
All right. So that's
Yeah.
typically the place where concerns are balanced.
Yeah, exactly.
If
And
changes are
change.
needed. Okay.
Exactly,
All right.
exactly.
I'm glad because I'm telling you all, I was all in my feelings, right? First of all, I'd be mad because I have to read 8,500 pages. But second of all, right, I want more. I want more from our leaders. I want more from our politicians.
Yeah.
Yuri, I actually got some text for you here, but let's go to the phone line first. Good morning, caller. Oh, here we go. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Madam Green. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
CA and your co-host, the guest.
Blessings.
I am happy this morning that you brought this particular guest on. And reason being is that several guests before him on this show came on. They was in the House of Assembly. As a matter of fact, we paid them to be in the House of Assembly, as opposed to do as the official opposition in government. But they come out with more questions out the House than we asking. What sense that make? It ain't make no sense bringing them on the interview if you can't bring out the answers that the Bahamian people need. I'm happy you brought on your other guests this morning. And if they don't remember, a budget is just a prediction. It's just a forward prediction. 53 years, hundreds of budget predictions from $4 million in the first 1973 to $13 billion owing in 2025. What is there to say?
Yeah.
Huh? What is there to say? Obviously, the numbers don't lie. And if the pre-national movement remembers, in 2001, 2002, Shivago, Lang, and Bill Allen predicted a balanced budget too. And what happened? Nothing. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I see the caller mentioned the balanced budget, and the headline in The Guardian mentioned surplus. Why everybody's excited about this word surplus? What does that mean to the and then to the government in general?
Do you remember back? I don't know if you're that old enough, CC. You're like a pretty young man. But you remember back in the 80s, you used to have this guy going around on lampposts saying, I think it's
CCCP.
Yeah,
Okay.
balance the budget. Yeah.
Yes.
They've been talking about balancing the budget since the 70s, man. And it's difficult when, all the spending that the government does from salaries and capital expenditure and things like that. And then we're still a growing country as well. And prior to that too, we only had tariffs, customs duties, but now they have VAT now, so there's a better chance that they could actually make a balanced budget or get to a surplus.
Okay.
And so
I remember when VAT was initiated.
Yeah.
They said it's going to pay all our bills. Within
Yeah.
5-10 years, we wouldn't be owing anything.
And here's the thing about the VAT for this about budget to this next budget year. He's going to put the VAT down to 5% on certain items, but then he's also projecting a surplus. I don't see how you're going to get to that surplus if you're going to cut VAT.
All right. So, and I think there were lots of questions about the surplus. Caller, producer, let's prep the call. Caller, give me 3 seconds so I could say it right. For me, the question was, how could you with your left hand put a surplus on the table and then on your right hand put a bill to borrow money on the table? Like, I think for the average man, if you have extra money at the end of your budget, and then why would you call it a surplus? Right? Even if you say, well, we can have a little extra money, but it still won't cover the needs. So where can we go to find the language to begin to understand better? Is there a source? Do I have to go online and say, search understanding a budget? But is there a local source that I could go to for technical terms where I could understand what the government's doing?
The only agency that I've spoken to throughout my travels during this journalism process is the CFA, the Chartered Financial Analysts Association.
Okay.
They're able to give you some information, some guidelines, how to go about understanding a budget. Then you go to BICR as well, too, BICR.
Okay.
And they could also give you some kind of information, how to go about looking at a budget.
Okay.
Otherwise than that, you pretty much, there's
All
no
right.
agency for that.
And then budget at a governmental level.
Yeah.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Erin. How you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Shivago Lang here.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I was enjoying the conversation, and then I heard one of your callers call my name, and since I didn't know whether you were aware of how much of an untruth he said, I wanted to tell you.
Please do, sir.
First of all, Sir William Allen and I were never in the Ministry of Finance together
Okay.
in 2021 and 2022.
Okay.
2021 and 2022 was actually Prime Minister Davis.
Okay, yes.
This was just the other day.
Yes.
And never in the history of my experience in government did I ever project a balanced budget, ever.
Okay.
In fact, the only thing that the Free National Movement ever did was to have a surplus on the recurrent side of the budget, never an overall balance.
Okay.
Okay? So
Yes,
I just
sir.
wanted to set the record straight for that.
Now-
Because that caller has a history of doing...
You go, sir.
Sure.
Is there any space, like, I know there are big things happening at UB with the Franklin Wilson Research and Sustainability Center, and then you have the policy unit at UB. The policy unit, is that a space where people could come and learn more about the budget communication, the budget debate, preparing a budget, understanding the budget at the governmental level?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, first of all, we do, as a matter of training for the civil service, we do a public finance module. for
Okay.
them. But one of the things that we are doing is we are actually developing a budget scoring system at the
Okay.
Government and Public Policy Institute. And that budget scoring system will allow for some of the education of the fundamental terminology structuring of the budget that you were talking about. And I think it's an absolutely brilliant thing that you mentioned because it is necessary for people to understand it. I try to do it every time during budget year on my show. I've even done a Zoom class for people on it.
Okay,
as well.
awesome.
But it's absolutely necessary so that people can be more au fait about the budget, so that when they hear things being mentioned, they'll understand the difference between a real, nominal, recurrent, capital budget, and the various
Terms
structuring
used.
of the budget, so that it makes sense to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, Mr. Lang, I want to ask a question.
Sure.
Is there such a thing as a good budget or a bad budget?
Yes, there can be a good budget and bad budget for just as there can be for us individually. For instance, if I did a that bore no resemblance to my personal income, that's a bad budget, right?
Yes.
I'm putting in there. I'm making $100 million a year when I'm not, and I know I won't. So that's a bad budget. If I have spending priorities that are not reflective of real needs in my circumstances, then that's a bad budget, right? So if I lie about my numbers, then that's a bad budget. A budget is supposed to reflect as best you can the realities of your income and your expenditure with an effort to try to meet your needs, cover some of your aspirations, but at the same time, not create a scenario that drives you into the problems in the short, medium, or long term.
There's
And
also
it's supposed to also reflect the realities of your cash flow.
Yes, sir.
There's also a celebratory section now where people are celebrating the budget. Is there room for celebration?
Well, I would never celebrate a budget. I would be happy that my planning is sound enough to give me a financial way forward that I think is workable. But the celebration of a budget should only happen after you see the attainment of its aspiration.
Yes,
So, for
in the
instance,
wrap-up.
you won't know what the budget really accomplished until it's over and you see the manifested results. Sometimes those manifested results don't happen for you.
Yes. Good.
And before you go to the last question, surplus. Everybody's, all the newspapers talking about the surplus. How wonderful it is that. I want to ask the importance of having a surplus, and in short.
Well, and again, using our own personal lives as an example, if I do a budget that reflects realistically my income and my expenditure, and I have paid my current bills outstanding, not all of them, because I can have bills that come, but if I don't have people chasing me for monies that I owe them, and I've owed them for a year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. It really is ridiculous for me to say I have a surplus. If I have a balance on a credit card, and I have that is $2,000, and I have a surplus of $2,000, and the credit card is earning 18% interest, it makes no sense for me to celebrate having a surplus. And just remember, in the government terms, all of our deficits and all of our surpluses are planned. Okay, so they're planned. So every time you see the government at the beginning of the budget cycle says, we're going to have a deficit of $300 million, they are saying, I plan to have a deficit. Well, this now is a plan to have a surplus. We have not achieved the surplus in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas ever to this date. And we will not know that we have achieved a surplus in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas until maybe the end of next year.
After
By
a
the
full
way,
assessment.
In the 90s, in 1999, Ingram came as close as you could come to an actual overall balanced budget when the GFS deficit was, I think, a little under 1%. He could have planned for a surplus then. He could very well have done so.
I get it now. Okay, I understand. Sorry, it clicked to me, the language. He could have planned for
Yeah.
the surplus, but
Exactly.
he determined that he's going to invest resources in particular areas because some debt is actually good debt.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can plan. Listen, any number of administrations could have planned a surplus in this country. any number of them.
Okay.
But because you can remember, revenue is going to be. You don't know what it's going to actually be.
Understood.
You're predicting that, and you're the one who's predicting what your expenditure is going to be. But you don't know that you're going to have a pandemic, a storm, terrorist attack, etc. So this is a planned surplus. Now, to be honest with you, I would accept this as a great thing if I didn't know what I know, which is that many vendors in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, many contractors, are sitting out there owed millions and millions of dollars and asking for their money.
Now,
There are many needs in this society which we cannot and will not fulfill because we don't have the resources.
I understand what you're saying, sir. The BahamasBudget.gov.bs website, that's the primary portal for budget commission.
That's right.
Are there any other government agency platforms where we can go to access information relevant to the budget, or that we can use to assess what it is we're reading in the budget to make our own?
Actually, the Bahamas government website is the best place to go. The budget portal is the best place, and it has great details. If you know how to read the budget, you can get lots of answers that you require.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Very, very much.
No problem.
Which prompts me to say that the policy unit needs its own radio program so that we can bring these conversations into the common.
Mr. Lang,
We are launching a podcast for that purpose.
Awesome.
before you go, will you be talking about the budget? I mean, I'm sure you will. I just want to advertise.
For the next week or so, for sure.
So tune in today.
Yeah.
Listen.
2 to 4. Mr. Lang, I'm going to read a text. I don't want you to answer it now. But perhaps maybe you can answer it on your show.
Yeah, no problem.
The text says, based on the budget summary, revenue is listed at 3.89, expenditure at 3.82 billion, indicating a $70 million surplus. However, the reported surplus is 75 million, showing a 5 million difference not reflected in the high-level totals. Why?
That's the person reading the budget.
I got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. All the best.
Absolutely. Mr. Kemp, let's go to this next caller just quickly, and then we're going to get back to you. And I got 4 pages of interesting quotes. No, interesting quotes from the communication itself. Okay. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Erin. Good morning, CA, and good morning, Yuri Kemp.
Morning.
Morning.
I want to say thank you to the last caller, Mr. Lang. And Erin, you said something so profound just now that many of us have been calling for quite some time, and this is, part of where we talk about the educational component that is really necessary prior to now. This stuff should really start. From educational-wise, from the junior high schools where our students, the upcoming leaders of this country, should begin to understand the nuances and the systems that is currently in play in this country. So when they advance to the level to become the future leaders, they would have sufficient knowledge on how to move this country forward. It is so lacking from the junior high school standpoint. I applaud and Mr. Lang for the work that they're doing. I don't think that they're getting sufficient kudos for the amount of work and attention that they put into these things. But I'll close on this one point, and it all comes back to the educational component. I think we do a piss-poor job, and pardon the expression, for educating our people on these systems. I believe that it must come some way, somehow. We got to get it more into the public domain, especially for those who would like to learn more about how these systems work. Yes, reading sometimes and the technical information that's contained therein sometimes can be difficult to understand. But our persons actually break these things down for the average layman to understand these systems, how they work, and how they are applied. I think that is so important. And I just wanted to put that out there. I'm totally enjoying this your program right now pertaining to the budget and the difference between the difference between an actual budget and a
communication.
like a projected budget.
Yes.
It's very important for us to know those differences. Thanks for taking my call this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Mr. Kemp?
Yep.
I don't know if you wanted to respond to anything that Mr. Lang said or that this. All right, let's go to the next caller quickly. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning. I called on a point of correction for myself. Yes, I am human. I make mistakes, and I definitely didn't mean 2021, 2022.
Okay.
You'll be fooled to believe that I was talking about 201, 202 when Mr. Lang was in the House. Now, he may not have been in finance, but they projected a balanced budget then, too. Nothing happened. And I am human, just like how he's critiquing the Prime Minister now with what Ingram did. And when he made the mistake, 9% is the same as 51. Thanks for taking my call.
Listen, because I have guests in studio, I'm not going to crack that joke. I will not crack it. Okay, so, Mr. Kemp, I don't have 4 pages of questions written down, but I do have 4 pages of questions in my mind. But I do want to make that point. I got a text here that says, there's only a budget communication. Why everybody rowing the Prime Minister? He thinks it's unfair. And so I think it's because text said that people don't understand the process, right? First, there's the budget communication. Then the budget document is disseminated. And then there's the budget debate based on what's in the document. And then you use the Prime Minister's communication, the manifesto. So you have the manifesto, the budget communication, and even possibly the speech from the throne or the opening of Parliament once it was prorogued, right? We had a 2023 proroguing. And you can use those documents in combination to understand where the government is potentially going and what you may see in the actual budget. And then after that, it's like what I can say right now is I didn't see anything about sports in the budget. I don't recall seeing anything about sports, although there's reference to the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture and a program. It's May is Mental Health Month. I don't know if I saw anything specifically to enhancing or upgrading mental health facilities, although there is a lot of talk about upgrading or provisioning for public health and healthcare systems.
I think their respective ministers are going to speak to their portfolios. You're going to have Mario Bolag, Minister for Youth, Sports and Culture, speak to his portfolio. And you're going to have Dr. Darwell speak to the Ministry of Health. So I think moving forward, throughout the debate, you're going to have those people speaking to their particular ministries.
Right, and so if I was looking to hear something from sports and I didn't, then it's incumbent upon me to tune into the debate and ensure that I can hear what the minister responsible for sports has to say, because the details may be in that place.
It should be in there.
Okay, I telling you all, I was all in my feelings last night.
And there's also the politics of things, right? Erin mentioned earlier the plan, the PLP's plan, opposed to the speech from the throne and also now the budget, and see if it's comprehensive of they're following the guidelines. There's also mention of a fire engines being financed.
I saw that.
And I wondered, surely the minister beforehand said the fire engines already been ordered and paid for. And I was wondering, is that the politics of things, or they're clarifying that we didn't really order it before, or this is a new fire engine, or I just being picky and say, man,
Cecil, God knows what's in the hearts of men. I can't judge, and I can't say, he meant that back then, so I don't know. You have to probably ask him.
So did we order fire engines already?
I don't know.
Are we ordering fire engines now? Because in the budget now.
Right, but we'd have to look at the document itself to see if there's a line item. And that's the next thing, right? Like, as an advocate, I've told this constantly in my career. Like you said, politicians could say anything, but line items.
Yeah, and that's coming down later, actually. So you're going to get to that part where they go through meticulously every particular line in the budget.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have to go to a break, caller. I'm so sorry. Text us. I'm coming to you. 4 pages of notes. I'm going to get to you too at some time over the next 2 weeks. We have to go to a break. At the other side of the break, I hope Mr. Kemp could stay with us. It's only a few minutes, but I know he has a busy morning, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Kemp. We're going to a break. You're on the clock with Erin Greene. I got another special guest in studio. I was hoping to bring him into the conversation as well for historic perspective on budgets, but we can get to that in the future. Stay tuned. Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. You're on the clock. We'll be right back.
Tell me why he made these islands. Tell me. Woo. If the good Lord never liked these islands best, tell me why they are so pretty. If these islands aren't much better than the rest, tell me why they are so plenty. Woo! They're so beautiful.
And have a seat, please. They'll call you in for your x-ray shortly.
That's why they call it a waiting room. You won't have that problem at 4th Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor. We never schedule multiple appointments, so you'll be in and out in no time. And if your initial screening reveals a concern, our radiologist can conduct an alternative screening right then and there. Call 328-8157 to schedule an appointment for Imaging at Grosvenor today.
Boy, you know what going down tomorrow?
No, boy, what happening?
Joe bringing these knives to school. He could do Junior in.
For what?
Boy, he fooled with Joe girl.
Mother sick. And you know Junior don't back down for nothing. So that means you got a big fight tomorrow.
So whose side you on?
Side? I trying to stay in school, not Simpson Pen. We gotta tell somebody about this fight.
Tell somebody. I ain't no snitch. I mean cool, you know.
Boy, if you so cool, then you need to stay in school and stay out of the fight.
Yeah, but if I don't hang on Joe's side, him and these boys coming for me next.
All right, so we definitely gotta tell somebody. We gotta prevent the fight.
What I say, I don't want nobody call me snitch.
We could just call Crime Stoppers. You could report what you know, and nobody gotta know it's you.
So how did I boy?
All you gotta do is call them, or you text them through the Crack Crime Bahamas app, and nobody can know it's you.
Then the police come looking for me for more info, and when they finish with them, Joe them coming looking for me?
When you call Crime Stoppers, the calls go directly to Miami, and they don't ask nothing about you. Then you can get the pen from them, and they can claim a reward later using that same pen.
Plus, everything's scrambled, so nobody can read what you're saying.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
Did you know you could send a local bank transfer to a Sand Dollar wallet? It's the same as sending a transfer to an account at another local bank. Simply use the wallet's 12-digit top-up address as the account number, savings is the account type, Central Bank of the Bahamas is the bank, and Sand Dollar is the branch with branch code or transit number 12,000. Don't use urgent or priority delivery. Transfers to Sand Dollar wallets are processed through the Bahamas Automated Clearinghouse Network within 1 business day.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
At Cleveland Clinic, care is everything. So when your primary purpose is to care for the world, you'd start with your community until you're accessible anywhere. You make complexities your specialties and put compassion before anything else, all to redefine what's possible for everyone, everywhere, for every care in the world. Cleveland Clinic.
Oh, yeah. All right. My beautiful islands. I tell you, if the good Lord never goes on holiday, tell me why.
Good morning and welcome back to On the Clock. Okay, the boards read some of these quotes from the communication itself. A lot of positive stuff in the communication. Good morning, caller.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning, Erin.
Yes, sir.
Cecil, is Cam still over with you?
He had to leave the studio. He got to go back to work. I was just borrowing him.
Okay, no problem. Good morning. Good night.
Yes, sir.
Look, let me start. I phoned in a bit late, but I'm happy to hear that y'all having the budget discussion. I don't know if y'all going to continue with the discussion into Nuri's show, but hopefully.
If not, definitely tomorrow.
Okay. The fire engines are clearly a plan for the government in the new budget, right? And so, there's nothing to even wonder about with regard to that.
Well, okay, pause. Just hold on. Just stick a pin. just stick a pin. There was discrepancy in communication from the various stakeholders in the space. That's all. We presumed after assessing all of the statements together that we would likely see an allocation in the next budget exercise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so right. That's natural. And the Prime Minister made that very clear in his budget communication, because that's all that is happening where the Prime Minister is concerned. When they get into those heads is when each minister responds to those details and flesh out specifically how the budget applies to their various ministers.
Now, Anton, with your feet closer to the ground than my feet are, you all help Keith Bell figure out how he can manage his time this year, right?
Man, Aaron, you better stop it.
I just saying. Hold on, because the point you make is correct. The ministers and the MPs, they have the real technical information.
Right.
And the public would prefer them to focus more on relaying that technical information than the jeers and the political rhetoric. That's all.
Well, that's a part of the budget.
No,
that's what
no.
And that's not just limited to the PLP. That goes.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Expect more from the PLP though.
We understand that it's entrenched in the political culture now, but the people are actually demanding more.
Agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Aaron. I do not. Let me make that very clear. Even though I'm acknowledging what the realities are in the realm, in the political realm in Parliament during budget discussions and budget debates, especially when the government is performing, I also want to acknowledge that we need to focus on the information that is important to relate to the public so that they can understand exactly how the ministry further advance and how the planning is going to benefit the nation, specifically each individual Bahamian in the country. But let me end with this here.
Yes, sir.
What I wanted to highlight is whether there's a projection for a overall budget balance, whether there's a projection for an overall budget surplus, right? What is positive to not overlook or to not underlook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that the country has moved in a completely positive direction, right? I believe what is also important to highlight simultaneously with that is we now need to see, as citizens of the country, what the Prime Minister himself, Minister of Finance, has acknowledged, right? As well as his Minister of Economic Affairs, who is also Minister of State and Finance, Michael Alcides, Minister Michael Alcides. They both acknowledged that the Prime Minister is very cognizant that he needs to translate the budget into benefit for Bahamians directly and specifically.
All right.
So that part of it is where my focus is.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to how that is going to happen.
Thank you,
for
Anton.
the opportunity. God bless.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anton. I only get a couple. Oh, Anton, you take up all my time. Okay. Caller, I see you on the board. I need to say these things out loud. The headline in today's Guardian: Government targets budget surplus. Budget does not reflect any proceeds of Grand Lucayan sale. Government slashes VAT on diapers, medicine, and more, including feminine hygiene products. F&M says budget surplus projection is a sad farce. And then there's more in the business section. You got to get into the Guardian today. There are also articles in the Tribune. Buy the Guardian first. Buy the Guardian first. Good morning, caller. Good morning. We ain't cussing him today.
You say you trust.
Oh, you trust him? Okay, good. If you trust him, that's good. The line did cut before I touched the button. I just want you to know. I thought you said cuss, and we ain't cussing him today. I was all in my feelings last night. Me and the raccoon said plenty things we may not have meant, but that's between us and the raccoons. Here's a text. No, Erin, this morning the DPM continued the messaging that the government wanted. This was not only a communication, this was a euphoria generator, same as the Lucayan heads of agreement with no details about the actual agreement. He wanted us to be enthusiastic about the projected surplus. Odd language, I got you. But now we have a better sense of how to tool ourselves. We're going to parse this, we're going to read it, we're going to understand it so that we can respond with informed positions and opinions on the way forward. But when you say euphoria generator, I sure they have a hologram machine, Mr. Nuri. I want to see the line item in the budget for that. You ain't noticed that when the Prime Minister was reading that speech for 75 hours, and every page he take off the speech, the pile never drop? You have a magical speech machine or something? I don't know what y'all spending the money on, but I need to use that hologram machine for Labor Day. I'm gonna need it. I got a project I'm working on. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you to Mr. Lang for calling in and sharing as a policy expert, a former politician in the space. Thank you to Mr. Kemp for bringing his business perspective as a reporter at the Nassau Guardian. Thank you to all the techs. I got things to read tomorrow. We're going to go through the communication itself. I've got 4 pages of highlights, like jet ski and motorboat operators will now face fines and fixed penalties for violations of the laws and regulations governing their operations to strengthen enforcement within the Ministry of Finance. You know that they didn't have no laws governing them like that? Also, Upskill Bahamas. You guys go check that out right now. Upskill Bahamas. You can learn more about it in the budget communication as well. Office of the Prime Minister page online and bahamasbudget.gov.bs. Y'all, and the government portal. Y'all go there, start informing yourself. We're going to pick up this conversation tomorrow. You've been on the clock with Erin Greene. Stay tuned because Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Nuri is up next.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.